Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do my intimidating TBR book tag. I really like filming tags and watching them, so here's another one that I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna do a bunch of these. Let's just expose me and see what books I'm really intimidated by. I think it will be fun. So the first prompt is talk about a book that you have not been able to finish. So for this one, I could list many books. I actually want to make a whole separate video about books that I have started and have maybe gotten like halfway through, but for some reason never finished. I think it's very interesting to just kind of explore why I haven't continued on, because it wasn't like I DNF'd them officially, I just never continued. So I will film a separate video about that. But the book that I decided to choose for this particular video is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. I started reading Lolita when I was in grade 11 or so, and I got exactly halfway through the book, but I never continued, not because I didn't like it or anything. It was definitely a very unique reading experience for obvious reasons. If you're not familiar, Lolita follows a story of a man who falls in love with a young girl, and by young, I mean she's like 12 and he's like 40. Yeah, I think everyone knows what Lolita is about. I probably got the ages wrong. I started reading this book so many years ago. So while I don't remember the particular details of this book, I do remember the plot and I remember where it went, and it was very interesting, and I definitely want to know what happens at the end. It's a classic, so I really want to read more classics in general. I used to be very good at that. I read so many classics as a teenager. A lot of my favorite books of all time are classics, but for the last couple of years I kind of moved away from that, and I've been reading heavily YA fantasy, so definitely want to incorporate more classics into my reading life now, and Lolita is definitely up high on the pile of classics that I want to get to as soon as possible. The funny thing about Lolita is that I don't know what language I should read it in, because I can read Russian and English, and this is a book by a Russian author, but it was originally written in English because he was bilingual, and he's one of the very rare cases where an author is proficient enough in both languages to write his own story in both languages. It's very cool. I think it's very cool. I thought for the longest time that Lolita was originally written in Russian, but it turns out it was originally written in English, and then he wrote the Russian version. And I started reading the Russian version back in grade 11, but now that I know that it was originally written in English, but it was also kind of originally written in Russian, I just don't know. I don't know what I should do. I looked up, and I think I am able to buy a Russian version of Lolita to physically read it, so I might do that. I'm still debating whether or not to do it, so that's another dilemma that I didn't think I would be having, but here I am. If you have any opinions which language I should read it in, let me know down below, because I am the most indecisive person to ever exist, and I can't make up my mind. Send help. So the next prompt is, what book have you not read because you haven't had the time? And I think this is such a cop-out prompt, because obviously you consciously choose which books you will read each month, so not having the time is a lame excuse because you're obviously reading, so you obviously have the time to read. I think what I'm going to answer is what book I have had on my bookshelf for so long, but for some reason have not picked up. And for that, I'm picking All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I've had this book for 5 years. I purchased it when I was 17. I remember exactly the day I purchased it. I remember the entire day. I could map it out. Not because it was a good day. Remember purchasing this book so clearly. I remember having it in my little indigo bag. I only bought that book physically in the bookstore. I don't do it often, so it was kind of a special deal. And I remember walking to the SkyTrain with my bag and thinking, oh my god, I am so excited to read this book. Here we are 5 years later, I have not read it. For some reason, I haven't picked this one up. I have no excuse. I honestly just have no excuse. I should get to this, and hopefully I will get to it this year. Hold me accountable. I will read this book by the end of 2020. Watch me fail. Oh, and if you're not familiar, this story follows two perspectives. The first one is a blind French girl, and the second one is a boy who's been recruited by the Nazi party to be a soldier for the Nazi army. and how their paths cross and just their stories during World War II. So the next prompt is, what book have you not picked up because it's a sequel? And for that one, I am choosing A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer, the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, obviously. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and in this story, Harper, who lives in our regular real world, witnesses a kidnapping of a young woman by this sketchy man in a dark alley, and despite all good judgment decides to try to defend the woman, but she's not physically able to do it, so she accidentally gets teleported into a magical world instead of that woman, and she is basically stuck in a castle with this cursed prince who is bound to turn into a beast permanently unless he finds a true love, a person who will basically love him for who he is. That's all you need to know about the book. I really enjoyed the first book. I think I gave it 5 stars or 4.5 stars. It was very well written and very enjoyable, a fun ride. But the second book follows a perspective of different characters, one who we do know from the first book, but another one is apparently a completely new perspective. I'm scared that the second book is just not gonna give me that satisfaction of following the journey of characters I already love. So that's why I haven't picked it up, but I do want to read it, and I will read it. I am just a little bit intimidated. I'm sorry for the background noise, but I can't breathe, so we're just gonna have to deal with that. So the next prompt is, what book have you not read because it's brand new? And for this one, I'm going with none other than The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Half the booktube has already read this book. Even though it's brand new, it's kind of old news at this point, but I have not picked it up yet. Not because I don't want to, but because I am doing a reread of the original trilogy before I move on to this one, just so that it's kind of fresh in my mind, and I also have been wanting to reread the Hunger Games trilogy for a while, so I am doing that now. I'm about halfway through the second book, so definitely hoping to pick this up next month, aka July. I don't know when this video is gonna be posted, but if you're not familiar, this is the prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy, and this one follows President Snow when he is 18, and this is during the beginning of 10th Hunger Games, so it's very different, and I think we just kind of get a glimpse of how different things are in Panem, because the war just ended 10 years ago and the Hunger Games are pretty new, so we get to see that, and we also get to see the path of President Snow from being just, you know, just a regular person in Panem and kind of how he gets to be a president. I think that's what it's about, basically, so it's a chunker, but I have faith that I can finish it in July, hopefully, if I get to it. Looking forward to this one, so yeah. So the next prompt is, what book have you not read because you read another book by the same author and did not like it? So for this one, I am going with A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahereh Mafi. I've read Shatter Me, and I started the second book, I think it's Ignite Me. I did not really enjoy it. I thought it was very outdated. I wasn't vibing with the writing style that much. It's definitely a kind of specific writing style that not everyone will like, and I don't think I'm 100% sold on it. I don't know if she keeps the same writing style in A Very Large Expanse of Sea, but this book is very different from Shatter Me. A Very Large Expanse of Sea follows a Muslim girl in post 9/11 New York. Yeah, I'm very intrigued to read A Very Large Expanse of Sea, but I'm also cautious because the writing style might just not be my thing. So hopefully I like it. I do want to get to it kind of soon, maybe in August, we'll see. So the next prompt is, what book have you not read because you haven't been in the mood? For this one, I could make videos and videos and videos because I'm a mood reader, so there aren't many books on my TBR that I haven't read for reasons other than because I haven't been in the mood for them. So this is very easy. So I've mentioned in one of the previous videos that I'm not a big contemporary reader, and definitely not been in the mood for a contemporary. I only own a handful, and one of the ones that I just haven't read, I started it but I never continued on, is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. So I've seen the movie for this, and then I decided to buy the book because I really loved the movie. I actually watched it on my 20th birthday, I think. Not sure when the movie came out, but it was either a year or two ago, so one of those. And I really liked the movie, and I was interested in the book before I watched the movie, but I was like, okay, I want to read it. And she has companion novels for this whole series, and I've read The Upside of Unrequited, and I really, really like that book. I think most people know what this book is about, but it's basically about a closeted gay boy who's just very straight passing, and he starts emailing with this boy named Blue, but he doesn't know the true identity of this boy, and his emails basically get hacked and he gets blackmailed by one of his classmates. The guy who blackmails Simon kind of wants to get together with one of his friends. But yeah, and just kind of like what happens after he tries to set them up, how it backfires. So the movie is very good. I would recommend the movie. I remember I cried when I watched it in the movies, so yeah, I heard mixed things about the book. I've heard some negative things, but I've read books by Becky Albertalli before, so I think I know what to expect. And I also just in general don't have high expectations for contemporary, so yeah, I just haven't been in the mood for it, but one of these days I will get to this, I promise. So the next prompt is, what book have you not read because it's huge? And for this one, it's very easy. It's The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. My hand hurts holding this up. Look how huge it is. It weighs like my little sister. It weighs so much. This is, I could work out with this, you know, like this is huge. This book, I just looked, it's over 1200 pages. This is, by the way, in Russian. I brought this from Russia when we moved to Canada. I don't know how I managed to convince my parents to bring over this huge brick of a book because it's so heavy. This is like half of the weight allowance for international travel, I swear. But yeah, this book is huge. I'm really interested in reading this. This is basically like a revenge story of a man who was wrongfully accused of murder, and he kind of escapes prison, I think, and he basically just goes on this revenge journey or something, I think. And this is another classic, so it's double intimidating because of the language, but I'm glad that I have this one in Russian because I feel like I'm more used to the classical language in Russian, if you know what I mean. So, okay, my hand hurts holding this, so I'm gonna stop talking about this one. This is scary. So the next prompt is, what book did you buy because of the cover, but then you found out that the reviews weren't so great? And for this one, I'm going with First Tbr 4 by Alexander Surovi. This book, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I can't say honestly that it was just the cover buy. I did learn what it was about and it sounded very intriguing. This is actually one of the lowest rated books on my TBR. Granted, I don't have that many low rated books. Most books that I have on my TBR are like 3.5 and up. This one is 3.4, which is not terrible, but it's low enough. I'm no longer as excited, and I did start reading this book at some point actually. I think I read about 10-20% of this. Wasn't really vibing with it that much. It wasn't terrible, but I was also like not too excited. So if you don't know, this book follows a group of friends who kind of start a cult-ish situation. I'm gonna do a very bad job of explaining what this book is about, so remember there's links down in the description where you can find all of the books I mentioned in the video if you want to read what they're actually about, but I'm gonna try to explain what this is about. So basically at the beginning of the book, this girl finds this chunk of metal or rock that is kind of like extraterrestrial or something. It's very kind of like magical alien thing, and I know that she starts this kind of club, cult-ish kind of club with her friends, and they start doing some questionable, morally questionable things. For the lack of a better word, their cult grows. I think the book starts that we find out that one of the friends, the original creators of this cult, quote unquote, is dead, and we're trying to figure out what happened. It sounds exactly like what I would want to read. There's a group of friends, there is some dark stuff going on, morally questionable characters, something alien, magical going on, and there is a murder. Sign me up, but I don't know. I started reading it and it was meh, and then the reviews are also kind of like meh, so I don't know. Have you read this book? What do you think? Should I get to it? Should I give it another try? I'm not going to get rid of it yet. I still want to try to read it, but I'm definitely a little bit deflated from what I did read, and yeah, I'm just really sad. It's a beautiful book. I wish it was as beautiful inside, but I can't judge it yet because I haven't read the whole thing. Okay, and the last prompt is, what is the most intimidating book on your TBR? So this prompt is kind of open to interpretation, what the most intimidating really means to you. I could have gone with The Count of Monte Cristo because it definitely checks all of the intimidating boxes, but I decided to not repeat myself and choose another huge classic book that I own, and that is Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. This book is a classic and is a chunky one at that. It has 700 pages, small font, and it's in English, so it's even more intimidating. Even though I read 99% of my books in English, I don't read many classics in English. Yeah, this one I own in English, so I'm gonna have to make do with that. This book takes place in the 1800s during the Napoleonic Wars. It's kind of a satirical commentary on the English society. It specifically follows these two women. They're just kind of like trying to outdo each other, like they're friends, but they're also rivals. It's kind of supposed to poke fun at the human nature and morality, and I think how people are just kind of irredeemable and all of the negative qualities that humans may have. So that's as much as I know about this book. It sounds right up my alley. I really love exploration of morality, human nature, and just kind of satirical take on the society. That is exactly the kind of thing that I like to read about. This is actually probably the classic that I'm the most excited to read, but I'm also very scared. Hopefully it meets my expectations, and hopefully I am able to actually pick it up and read it. Yeah, so that's my most intimidating book. So yeah, these are all of the most intimidating books in my TBR. Please let me know down below in the comments which book is your most intimidating book, and also let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, if you like them or not, if you would recommend them. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you are taking care of your mental health and continuing to support the Black Lives Matter movement. And yeah, I will see you in my next one. Bye!